morning. I think we're ready to start. I think everybody's in from the waiting room now. Thank you so much for your patience. We're very excited this morning to be hosting one of our J Virtual Career Speaker Series. This is something that we've been holding most weeks with some wonderful speakers to talk about careers and various their paths to where they've got today. We are lucky enough to have Moon Javaid, who's Vice President of Strategy and Analytics from the San Francisco 49ers today, and we'll get him started in just a second. So thank you for joining us, Moon. We're really excited to have you here today. Everybody who's on the call, please, we are going to, there'll be an opportunity, first Moon shall speak, so if you could please stay muted during that time, and then after that we will lead a Q&A session where you'll have an opportunity to ask any questions that you might have. On that note, I'll hand it over to Moon, so thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Rachel and Kathy, for having me here today. I'm very excited to be speaking to you all about my role and my journey to become the Chief Strategy Officer for the San Francisco 49ers. Before we really start to kick in, I'll really start to tell you what it really means to be the Chief Strategy Officer for the San Francisco 49ers. So in my role, I do four key things. So first is I help our organization to make some revenue. So what that means is ticket pricing. So when your parents or you complain about ticket prices, that's really my fault. I'm the one that's driving the prices for each one of our games. I also happen to manage our retail and concessions. So if you happen to purchase a 49ers hat or a hot dog at one of our games, those are areas that I oversee and manage. I also work on fan improvements. So we send out surveys, which are like questionnaires to our fans every week. We ask them about their opinions and what we can improve about our experience, and then we take those questionnaires and we actually go out and we make those improvements. We also have Happy or Not terminals, which I'm not sure if you guys have seen Happy or Not terminals, so I'll change my background really quickly here. So Happy or Not terminals are these things that you might have seen at an airport, or they have them at local IKEA stores, but effectively, fans can go around the stadium and hit those buttons if they're happy or unhappy with our service, whether it be for concessions or if their restroom was not very clean. So those terminals are very important for us to help improve customer service. The next thing we really work on is to help expand our 49ers brand. And so what that means is we go out and we purchase other businesses or open other businesses underneath the 49ers umbrella. So pretty recently, we opened up 49ers Fit concept, which is a gym. And so I think I have a picture here that I can show you of the 49ers Fit as well. So this is the outside of the facility that you can see right here. And then just a quick shot of the gym that we opened up. And it's been about 6 months since we opened up this gym. Unfortunately, it's sitting a little closed right now due to the shelter-in-place order, but something that we're very excited to be sharing with our fans. So that really covers my role at the 49ers in a nutshell. But how did I really get here? And what I really wanted to talk to you today was about that journey and really how hard work and dedication helped to lead me here. So let's start right when I was about your age in high school. So I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and so I'm a huge sports fan. And so I brought some little toys with me here today. So I have some of my favorite bobbleheads. I do collect bobbleheads. So it's my LeBron James bobblehead. LeBron James, I believe, is one of the greatest players to play. And then I also have right here, which is my Terry Francona bobblehead. Terry Francona is the manager for the Cleveland Indians right now. So when you grow up in Cleveland, there's a saying in Cleveland, and it's, in Cleveland, everything is earned. And so what that saying really means is, Cleveland is really not the richest city in the world, and there aren't as many jobs as other cities like, say, San Francisco, where there's a lot of booming industries in the San Francisco market. You kind of grew up with maybe a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, or that you want to be successful, but in order to do that, no one's going to hand you a golden ticket. You have to really go out there and earn it yourself. So in high school, I worked very hard. I had a job where I worked 20 hours. I was in a lot of after-school clubs. I ran cross country and track. So I wanted to talk to you a story about when I ran high school track. So my sophomore year, I ran a 6-minute mile flat. And so I was a pretty average runner on our team at the time. But towards the end of the season, I actually wasn't able to run in the meets because my times weren't good enough. So that summer I was reading Sports Illustrated for Kids. And in that magazine, it talked about how some of the best cross-country runners in the world were going to run 500 miles that summer. And so 500 miles is about the distance from San Francisco to San Diego. So I decided that summer that I was going to run 500 miles. I did. And then the following year, my mile time dropped from 6 minutes to 4:45. So I easily started to become one of the best runners on the team and ultimately finished that year running a 4:15 mile. So I wasn't actually a great runner. I just really wanted it more. No one practiced harder than me, and I made sure that I was going to do everything I possibly could to do my best. So as I moved from high school, I went to college, and I decided to go to college at Northwestern University, which is just outside of Chicago. What I really liked about Northwestern was that it was diverse, and people had a lot of interests and backgrounds, and there were people that were very different than myself, and I thought that was very cool. I honestly didn't know what I wanted to do in college or after college at the time. I just knew that I liked economics and I liked psychology. I thought those subjects were pretty interesting, so I decided to major in them. I also joined a business club, and that was pretty important for me in college as well. The business club was called Alpha Kappa Psi. And what was really great about that club for me was that they brought in a lot of different speakers. So speakers from a variety of different career paths, and they would come and talk to us, much like I'm talking to you today, about what they did and what they enjoyed about their jobs and what we might expect if we were to choose career paths in those areas. And one area that I was really drawn to was consulting. And in consulting, you really work to help other companies solve their problems. So for example, I worked for a company when I was in consulting that was a dollar store. And this was a dollar store that for 50 years had priced everything at $1. But they didn't want to do that anymore. And they wanted to price things at $1.25 or 75 cents, depending on what their customers really thought they should be paying. And so we went in and we helped them solve that problem. And we helped them reprice their products over the course of the next couple months. So while I'm in college and I'm very interested in consulting, one of the big pieces I learned was about these case studies. And so when you want a job in consulting, you have to do an interview. And in that interview process, they do what's called a case study. And a case study could be something along the lines of, it's a question that they ask you, and then you have to problem solve it. So they might say, how many tennis balls are there in the United States? And then you have to walk them through what your thought process is on how many tennis balls you think there are in the United States. Or they might say, how many ping pong balls could fit in a 757? And then you'd have to estimate how many ping pong balls would be there. Or it could be something like, a company is losing money because its best product isn't performing well. How can you help them out? And so the interviewer really works with you over 30 minutes through these questions. And from there, they understand if you're the right fit for the job. So I knew that this was very important. Over the course of the next month, I really spent all my late nights and evenings working with my friends. And over that time, we did about 100 different case studies to practice on. So that took a lot of hours and probably a lot of arguments with my friends during those case studies. But eventually, all of us ended up with the job that we did want. And I think that it was very much due to all that preparation we did. Because when we're actually in those interview settings, we weren't as nervous as we were when we were interviewing with our friends, who were actually much harder on us than the interviewers were. So long story short, I think I was able to get my first job because of really a lot of preparation. So now I'm at my first job. I'm at LEK Consulting. And so LEK Consulting is a worldwide consulting firm, but I happen to work in their office in Chicago, where we had about 40 individuals there at the time. I worked in LEK Consulting for 3 years and worked on about 30 projects. And I thought that was really cool. I got to explore 30 different types of industries and types of work and help out customers in 30 different areas. It was a lot of fun. I actually made a ton of friends while doing it. And, I'll rewind back and talk to you about that dollar store project because that was a really big project for my career. And it happened just a few months into my job. So this dollar store had 60,000 products that we had to price. And my boss wanted me to make 60,000 PowerPoint slides to show recommendations for each product. And so I'm sitting there thinking 60,000 slides is going to take me a very, very long time to do, like hundreds and hundreds of hours to put together. So I asked him if there was a way to automate it. And he came back and he said, the only way to automate it is if you know how to computer program. Can you computer program? And I told him, no, I didn't, but hey, I can learn. And so he kind of laughed at me and he said, hey, if you can learn it, go for it. And he said that because at the time we were working from probably about 7 a.m. till midnight every night. So, 17-hour days, not really much time to learn something. But, much to his surprise, that night I bought a copy of VBA for Dummies. And so VBA was the Visual Basic Language that I learned. And, it was just one of those books that you might see that are yellow, that are, learner subject by dummies. So I spent the next 2 weeks reading that book from midnight to 5 a.m. every night. So I'd work from 7 a.m. till midnight. And then from midnight till 5 a.m. I'd read this book and sleep for a couple of hours. And then I'd head back to work the next day. So I did this for a couple of weeks. And, by the third week, I was actually able to write the script that automated the entire process. And so my boss was really surprised. And, what I think he really took away from it was not that I made this code that he was impressed with. What he was more impressed with was the fact that I could have went to sleep after 17 hours of working in a day, but I chose to learn more and I chose to add additional skills. And, I think that showed everyone in my firm, my desire to learn and grow and really help and contribute to the firm. And so a couple months later, I was actually promoted and became one of the youngest people ever promoted within the company, which really helped out my career path at LEK Consulting. So if I fast forward a couple years later, I was working on a project and it was for an investment firm. And so if I remember back from my Alpha Kappa Psi days when I heard speakers, investment firms I thought were a very big deal. And it was something that I was very intrigued in. I thought that all the individuals that worked at these investment firms were very impressive and they had very prestigious firms. And so I was very interested in helping out on their projects. So I joined their project and I did everything I possibly could to do a good job. And, after the project was over, the investment firm actually called our company, LEK, and inquired about who led the project for them. And so it happened to be me. And, a couple weeks later, after a few conversations, I ended up joining that investment firm. So I've now, graduated college, moved past my first job, made a career change by the age of, 3-4 years out of undergraduate. And I'm now in my second job at an investment firm. And, I'm starting over from the bottom again. Here, at the investment firm, I'm at a very prestigious job. I'm making, some pretty good money at a very young age, but my hours were really crazy. And so when I told you my story about what I was working at LEK a little bit earlier, to put in perspective what I was working at Linden, which was the investment firm I was at, my average Monday through Friday, I was working about 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Saturdays as well. And so if Sundays, I got lucky if I got a day off. But, by all measures, I should have been pretty happy because it was what I wanted. I thought these investment firms were very prestigious. So I'd finally, quote unquote, made it for my career, and I should have been happy. But I wasn't. I didn't find the work to be fulfilling at all. I didn't wake up every morning excited. I thought I would be happy, but I wasn't. And I really struggled with this, into my late 20s. So I actually decided to quit. And I quit because I wasn't happy, and I booked a one-way ticket to Argentina. And I know that everyone around me thought I was crazy. And so I booked this ticket. I had no plans, no hotels, nothing planned out, just a one-way ticket to Argentina, and a thought that I wanted to explore the world. So in the beginning of the trip, I was talking to many people from all over the world. And when I talked to them, really what you could see is that everyone was really happy, and everyone was really happy with their career, and everyone was doing a job that they liked. And, I was struggling with that, and I was like, why don't I do that? So I did a lot of soul searching and decided, there's one thing that I really love, and that's sports. And so when I get back to the US, I'm going to pursue a career in sports. And at the time I thought, I was looking at firms that I could work at within sports, and I was really gravitating towards Nike. So here I am on a world trip, and I'm thinking about Nike and wanting to really have a job there. So if you give me a second, I'm going to just take off my virtual background. And so I have, while I was traveling the world, I actually created a book. And so the book is called Witness to the World. And it's based off of the campaign that Nike had at the time, which was called Witness. So I essentially went around the world, and I'm just going to try to get this up so you can see it. There. There, that one's probably better. So I basically had people all around the world hold up this sign for me, and with this witness sign. And so here, I'll show another one that's right here as well. And I thought that that would be a good idea, just pretty interesting for to show my interest and passion in Nike. And if this was a place that I really wanted to join and I was traveling the world, I thought it might be an interesting idea. So when I finished my trip about 9 months later, I came back and I started to email Nike. And I emailed them maybe 12 times, 15 times over the course of a couple of weeks, and I got no response. So I decided to print 20 copies out of that book I showed you. And I sent them to all the top level executives at Nike with a small note saying how badly I wanted to work at Nike. I actually got a call the very next morning and a job offer from them within about a week for an internship. And that internship was very exciting. It was my first foray into sports, and the Nike campus is very beautiful. It's located on a 3-mile campus where they have running trails and effectively every single type of sports court that you can imagine. During your meeting breaks or lunch breaks, you could play some beach volleyball, or you play in a pickup soccer game. So I was having a great time during that internship. However, my internship, did come to an end. And as I was looking for a job, I found out and I saw that there was a conference that was called the MIT Sloan Analytics Conference. And it was hosted by MIT, which is a university in Massachusetts. And what I saw was that they were hosting a case competition for the NFL. So I'm thinking, case competition, case studies, that's what I used to do when, I was practicing in college and then for my first career, and it was sponsored by the NFL. So I decided to enter the contest, and about 65 different teams entered the contest, but my team ended up winning. And, if I reflect on that experience, and if you were to be an independent person in that room, I can certainly tell you that, some people might think that it was because, hey, is it because that you're better or you're smarter? And I can tell you that's definitely not true. There were some exceptionally bright people in that room. And, but what I can tell you is that the prize for this contest was 4 Super Bowl tickets and 4 50-yard line seats. And for everyone else, for 64 other teams, it was about those Super Bowl tickets and having a fun experience. So they treated this as a fun project or a fun hobby. For me, I did nothing else outside of eat, sleep, and work on my presentation for 30 days. I really knew that was my one shot or my one opportunity to try and work with an NFL team. And I was going to do everything in my power to work and make sure that I put my best foot forward. And, when I carry forward that attitude, even if I hadn't won the contest, I still would have been able to sleep at night, because for me, as long as I've tried my best and I've tried my hardest and I put everything into it, no matter what the results, you've got to go to sleep that night because you did your best and you did everything you could. So after winning the contest, the NFL called me the next week and said, hey, give us your address and let's get your information and get you those four round trip tickets and flight tickets and then seats to the Super Bowl. And I turned them down. And I said, I don't want the tickets. I just want a meeting with the top NFL executives, just a 15-minute meeting, 15-minute meeting. And they kind of laughed at me and they said, no, we'll send you the tickets. And I responded to them and said, if you could please donate those tickets to charity, that'd be great. When you can schedule a 15-minute meeting for me, just let me know and I'll book a ticket and fly out myself to see you guys. And so that made them know that I was serious. And in a couple of weeks, I flew over to the NFL and met with some of the top NFL executives, including, Roger Goodell, who is the commissioner for the NFL. And it's still the only time I've met Roger Goodell, even though I've worked at the 49ers for 7 years. Meeting Roger Goodell before I joined the Niners was the only time I've met him, but met with Roger Goodell for about 5 minutes. And in that 5 minutes, I told him what I wanted to do with my life. And he forwarded me to Parag Marathe at the 49ers. And a week later, I was interviewing with Parag Marathe, and the rest was history. So before I wrap up today, I just really wanted to iterate on one of the themes, which I hope you picked up today, which is, it's really the most important lesson for me as I think about and reflect upon my career and my journey into getting to the 49ers. And that's, preparation and hard work. And so, for me, if I wanted anything in life, whether it was to win a track meet or to make a varsity team, to get into college, to get my first job, it was always about hard work and preparation. And so I do love to talk about some of my favorite athletes, and some of my favorite athletes are Michael Jordan. There's the Last Dance documentary that's going on right now. LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Floyd Mayweather. These individuals are some of the greatest athletes of all time. And really, when you reflect on them, they're very talented, sure, but there's a lot of other talented athletes. But what these guys had was drive, and they put that into their practice. So there's a great story about Kobe Bryant, about him coming in on the first day of practice for one of the seasons. And he was about a 10-year vet at this time. So he'd been in league for about 10 years. And historically at that time, a lot of veterans didn't show up to practice very early. And so he was always the first one in and the last one out of the gym. And so this first day, he came in at 6 a.m. to practice. And he came in and he saw a rookie. And a rookie was there, and a rookie was starting to practice right at the same time that Kobe was. Kobe didn't say anything. The rookie didn't say anything. The next day, the rookie is telling his version of the story. And he says he came in at 6 a.m. and he's very excited. He's expecting to talk to Kobe as they put on their warm-ups and they get ready for practice. And he comes in and he says, Kobe Bryant is drenched with sweat. It's clear that this guy's been working out for hours. And so when Kobe reflected on that situation later on, what he said was, there was no way I was going to let anyone else think that they were going to work harder than me. I was going to make sure that everyone knew that I was going to work harder than them. So for all of you today, I'd really like to combine some of the famous words of some of my favorite athletes. And so I'm going to change my background here for it, so you can see some of the athletes that, inspire me. And I started with the top left, which is LeBron. And I told you about, from a Cleveland saying where everything is earned. You got Roger Federer up there as well. And then Floyd Mayweather, who is the boxer I was telling you about, who is a boxer whose record is 50-0. And his mantra as he trains is hard work and dedication. And then, lastly, it's Kevin Garnett of the Boston Celtics, where he famously always screams, anything is possible. So I would just like to combine that and just say, anything is possible with hard work and dedication. And so with that, I think we can open it up for some Q&A.
Sounds great, Moon. This is Kathy with Junior Achievement, and thank you so much for that awesome presentation. We'd like to open it up to Q&A at this time. So if you have a question, you may, within your account, there's a little hand that you can raise, and we can see that. It's probably found under the 3 buttons next to your name at the top of your screen. Or if you'd like, you can show your video and you can raise your hand, just like you do in class, and we will look for those hands that are being raised. And while everyone is doing that, I'll go ahead and ask Moon. I'll ask you a question first. Knowing that you're part of the 49er team, is there an expectation that you attend the games when they're in town, or even when they're away?
Yeah, very good question. We are expected to attend all home games, and I attend about half of our away games. So over the course of the last 8 years, I've probably been to maybe 100, 120 NFL games, and I've been to 28 of the 31 stadiums. So still got a couple more on my list.
Oh, fantastic. At the games, do you have a role that you have to play, or is it purely just enjoyment?
So, for me, which is unlike the normal fan, away games are typically more fun for me, because away games I don't have to work. My work ends when the game starts for away games. So if I fly to another city, say Los Angeles for a game, I'd fly down there. I'd have some meetings in the morning before the game kicks off. And then if the game kicks off at about 1 p.m., I'm probably off at about 12. So then I can hang out. And, typically if I'm at an away game too, I'm meeting up with some friends or some family, and then I'll get to hang out with them and watch the game from the seats. For 49ers home games, I'm actually in what's called the Executive Huddle, which is, it's a suite that we have at the game that's on the 50-yard line. So it's great. And in that suite, we have 8 different streams of data flowing in so that we can monitor what's going on the game day. And we're effectively acting almost like air traffic control would, you know, at an airport and letting some of our employees know where some of our problems are at a game. So if some of our restrooms have too big of a line, or we're out of, you know, we do run out of toilet paper, we run out of toilet paper at a restroom, or if a concession stand, you know, we've had fridges break down, or employees not show up, or people not being trained. And so we're up in that control room, listening, hearing the feedback from people, and analyzing the data around, you know, purchases and when people are coming into the stadium, to really help enhance the experience for fans.
Excellent. Thank you, Moon. Are there any questions from the students or the teachers? Just searching the attendee list to see if there's any hands raised.
I'll ask a question, Kathy.
Oh, thank you, Audrey. Please do.
Hi, Moon. So thank you for that. I really appreciate the drive that you have, and you obviously work very hard. But at what point do you kind of, you know, have to stop and think about your health and wellness? Because I heard you say like you were sleeping like maybe 2 hours at one point. So, you know, how have you created that balance to like stay healthy? Because you know, you can't be working hard if you're, you know, you let your health suffer. So can you talk a little bit about that, your self-care?
Yeah, absolutely. Very much appreciate the question, Audrey. Very good question. And, you know, if I reflect back upon myself and in my 20s and working those hours, you know, there wasn't really just the same thought that there is today about, you know, having as well balanced of a life. And so I think if I had grown up in, you know, today, I might not be working 100-hour weeks like I was in the past. You know, I think I still would have had the drive, but yeah, I think I definitely might have had a little bit more balance in my life back then. You know, for me right now, I manage a team of 15 people, and, you know, I really articulate the importance of balance today. And, you know, you really need to have everything working to have a successful career. So your mind, body, and your skill set all has to be working in a, you know, we are all humans at the same time, and we have family lives and personal lives. And if everything's not clicking or in sync, you know, it shows and it reflects. And so it is important to maintain it. And so, and, you know, another important piece there too is, you know, that we're all very different. And so, you know, I think it's important for us all to be understanding that, you know, for one person, you know, it might be more important for them to if they have a larger family, or they want to spend more time with their family, that's important to them, that needs to be, you know, a major consideration. And, you know, for others, you know, it's really what makes you comfortable and what makes you happy. And for me, you know, working hard, and I do love my job. And so that's where it becomes a little bit of, you know, I think when they say, if you love your job, you'll never work a day. Or I think that's one of the sayings, and I enjoy it, and I just enjoy it. I guess that's probably the best way to describe it. So for me today, it doesn't always seem like work.
Excellent. Thanks, Moon. We can definitely tell you love your job. Our next question is from Miss Hannah from Stockton Unified. Mrs. Hannah, I'm going to go ahead and, oh, great. Your phone is unmuted.
Yes, good morning. I enjoyed your presentation. I teach green energy as well as Avid. And my question to you, I have a couple of students on this call who are in the green energy class. And they struggle with coming up with new concepts, original concepts, and pulling it all together as a team. What words can you share with them to let them realize how important teamwork is in today's workforce?
Yeah, very great question, Hannah. And, you know, in terms of green energy, I know that's not your question, but my wife works in sustainability. So, you know, I do definitely have a lot of love for sustainability and green energy, and very, very encouraged to hear you have some students working in the space. You know, teamwork is absolutely essential. You know, I have a team of 15 people. I cannot do everything myself. Neither can any individual on the team. And the best results are always when you do take the input and feedback from others. It was one of the pieces that I really drew from at Northwestern, and I talked about during the talk about people having such diverse backgrounds and opinions. And, you know, even if I feel like I have a great idea, I share it with a couple others on my team, and within 10 minutes, you know, one decently good idea becomes a great idea. And then after a couple more conversations becomes a great idea, and then an exceptional idea. And there's a great book on creativity that talks about creativity stems from iteration and cycles. And so, you know, the most creative or best ideas in the world are never thought of instantaneously, that they happen through these cycles. And these cycles happen and they become improved because there's peoples with different opinions that are adding into this cycle and adding on to it. If it's just the same opinion, it's just going to be the same cycle, that it's not going to grow and become better. So to me, teamwork is absolutely essential to unlocking the most creative, innovative ideas.
Thank you. That was very inspiring.
Excellent. Thank you, Moon. Are there any other questions from our students or teachers?
Hi. I want to ask if it's easy working as a working there. Is it easy working there?
Great question. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Is it easy working at the 49ers? And, you know, I think I'd have to say, for me, yes. And one of the things I tell people when I'm hiring them is I talk to them about a test that I give myself every Monday morning. And it's every Monday morning I wake up, I ask myself if I still love my job and I still want this job. And I tell myself when that answer changes to no consistently, then I need to look for a new job. But for me, about 99% of my days I really love. And, you know, honestly, if you do love what you're doing, things just become a lot easier. And you know, you're willing to work a little bit harder when you do love something as well. And, you know, if I answer it another way of is it easy or not, I think the other thing I would say is, you know, it's really what you put into it. I think any job can be easy, or any career can be easy, or it can be hard. But it's really about what you put into it and how much effort you do want to put into it. So everyone does have different priorities, and if and for you, if there's you know, if it becomes too challenging, or if there's challenges that are too big out there, and you know, I think you can either work collaboratively with some teammates to help figure it out, or you know, I think if you continue to work at it with hard work, you probably will be able to get there.
Excellent. Thanks, Moon. Thinking about those jobs within the organization, are there any particular jobs for high school graduates, those that a high school grad could just really enter and start to work within the 49ers?
Great question. So I think if there were someone coming just out of high school for a job at the 49ers, which there are, I think one of the things I'd really recommend is that student really articulate what they wanted to do at the 49ers. So if you did a little bit more research on the types of jobs that can be done, and say, you know, hey, I'd like to be a ticket sales representative for the 49ers. I think that will greatly enhance the likelihood of success, because you know, it's really important for the organization to understand where your interests are and what you want to do. Because again, what you're interested in, you're going to work harder at, and you're going to be better at it. So it's important for us to understand what you want to do, and where you can really add and contribute back to us as a firm. So I think if you're pretty specific about what you'd like to do, you'll increase your chances. In terms of roles out of high school, we certainly have, you know, game day jobs. So if we think about, I talked about retail and concessions being areas in game day support, such as ushers and ticket takers are always jobs that we do have open. You know, on the front office side, I'd say that from you know, we tend to see individuals that might not have as much experience come from, you know, the ticket sales is a pretty good entry point into sports. So you effectively will be on the phone all day, calling up potential new customers and asking them if they, like the 49ers and are interested in buying season tickets. And that's a pretty common entry point into sports. And it gives people a good understanding of what it's like working in sports is kind of that entry level job. So, that would be my recommendation for someone that's an aspiring sports industry professional.
Excellent. Thanks, Moon. It looks like we have a question from Angelica. So I'm going to go ahead and, oh, great. Your line's unmuted. Go ahead. Go and ask your question.
What are your experience while working with the 49ers?
I'm sorry, Angelica, did you say what was my best experience?
Yeah, like your experience while working with 49ers.
Yeah. So great question, Angelica. And, some of my most fun experiences, I think I'd actually cover up in two buckets. So one is I actually just really enjoy hanging out with my team. And so I have a staff of 15 individuals, and we do like to do fun events. Just if I'm thinking of virtual events, last week we did a virtual escape room. I don't know if you guys have ever done an escape room, but we did one virtually. So I just really enjoy hanging out with my team. And then, I know what more people really want to hear is some of my favorite sports memories. And, going to games and, being in that energy is definitely very, very, very exciting. And if I had to pick a moment from, my time at the 49ers, I'm actually going to go with the interception that the 49ers had against the Seattle Seahawks in the last week of the season. That was right at the goal line that helped the 49ers really cement the first seed in the playoffs this year. That was a very, very exciting, happy moment. And so that was probably my best experience at the Niners so far. If the Super Bowl had ended maybe 6 minutes differently, I'd have a very, very different answer right now.
Excellent. Thank you, Angelica. Let's see. I don't see any more questions, but we do have time for one more. Oh, great. I just saw Annie Blank raise her hand. Annie, I'm going to go ahead and unmute your line.
Thank you. Thanks, Moon. It's been really interesting. I teach in the middle college program at West Valley College, and today actually we're talking about LinkedIn and hiring and landing an interview even, and I'm curious, are there tools that you use or buzzwords or things that you're looking for? I understand the energy and the passion, but when you don't see the person, what other tools are you looking at to or using to assess if a person's going to come in for an interview?
Yes. So, I think, first, definitely very much appreciate the question. Very good question. I think there's a couple pieces I could probably talk about there. But in terms of the interview process that we have at the 49ers, we actually we have a couple of tests that you have to take to join our analytics team. So they're tests that will test your competency with Microsoft Excel and effectively also SQL, which is a computer program. And you basically, in this test, you have to do some analysis in Excel and in SQL, and then you have to build a presentation. And so we built that test because that really greatly resembles how we work. And so, we effectively will look at analytics and look at numbers, and then we'll build presentations for the staff. And so for me, that's the best way I can tell if someone can do the job is I actually give them some actual work that we did 2 years ago, and the data that we received, and I give them the same data that we received years ago and see what they do with it. For individuals during that individual process, especially at a young age, it is very important. I think attitude is the most important piece. And I know you articulate it might be hard to represent that in an interview, but I think it's, as an interviewer, I've interviewed probably thousands of candidates in my life. It's positive energy goes a long way, and it is, if you're nervous before a big interview, I don't get that nervous when I speak professionally, but I'll be honest with you guys today. I was nervous because I haven't spoken to you know, in this type of setting in a very long time. And so while you guys were all coming on the screen and popping up, I just did 10 deep breaths. And so no one can really see you doing that. And I just do that. And I promise you that if you do that, your nerves will start to come down with each successive breath. And then, you know, I sit there and center yourself and say, you've done everything you could to get to this point. Now you just got to let it shine. And so if whatever happens with that result, you live or, the result is going to be there. You have to accept it. So all you can do is be positive, know that you've done your work to get you to that moment, and do your best to recognize if you are nervous and take a few deep breaths so that you can be calm and have some good positive energy, because positive energy does, it's very apparent in an interview. It just flows.
Excellent. Thank you, Moon. Thank you, Annie. As a follow-up to Annie's question, Moon, do you have any strong opinions about a resume being on 1 page or 2 pages?
I do have strong opinions on it. It's 1 page. Yeah, a resume has to be on 1 page. And to put it into perspective, like from looking at resumes, if I have a job opening for one analyst, I'll receive about 500 resumes. And so I need to read that really fast, and I'd much rather read 500 pages than 1,000. And so I think it's really important. And I think that's true for a lot of jobs. It's not just our roles that it's hundreds of people applying. It's, you know, a lot of jobs out there. There's a lot of people that are applying. Do try and make it easy for the person that's reading it on the other side. I know you have a lot of great things you want to say about yourself, and I know they want to hear it once you get to the interview. But you know, try and get there as succinctly as possible.
Excellent. Thank you, Moon. All right. I did see that Gloria had a hand up. Gloria, we have time for your question. Would you like to ask it? I'm going to go ahead and unmute your line, Gloria. All right, Gloria, your line is unmuted. Would you like to ask your question?
Gloria's doing something for her mom.
Oh, all right. Sorry about that. I'm sorry, missed your question. No problem.
Question.
Yes, is that Robert?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Robert.
Have you always wanted to work in the NFL, like league or?
Yeah, Robert, great question. And the answer to that is no. And it would have been yes if I would have known it was possible. But growing up, I just never really thought about, you know, having a job in sports. It didn't occur to me. I didn't think about it at all, and that there would be jobs available in sports. It wasn't actually until I read Moneyball, which is a book by Michael Lewis, and that's about working in analytics in sports, but on the sports side. But I read Moneyball in 2006, and it changed my life. Reading that book, I just never thought you could work in sports, and not, you know, once I realized you could, I decided that is what I wanted to do. So yeah, not a dream since I've been a kid, but I can tell you that, you know, I talk about 10-year-old Moon a lot. So 10-year-old Moon is so excited that you know, much older Moon is working in sports. Hey, Kathy, I think you're on mute.
That's right. Thank you, Moon. Thanks, Robert. I do see one more hand, Moon. Shall we go ahead and take it? And
Absolutely.
oh, actually, we have Gloria is now back online. So we'll take these last 2 questions, Moon, and then we'll. So I'm going to go ahead and Gloria, I'm going to unmute your phone first. There you go, Gloria. Can you?
Hi. So I was wondering if you, like, as a kid, did you think that you were going to do this as a job?
Yeah, Gloria, great question. I just, you know, I think while you just walked away, Robert asked the same question. So great minds think alike. But since you missed it, I'll fill you in real quick, which is, you know, no, I didn't realize that you could work in sports as a kid. I just didn't realize jobs existed in sports. So if I had known, I think it would have been my dream. But you know, I probably didn't realize I could work in sports until my later days in probably my 20s when I read a book called Moneyball by Michael Lewis.
Excellent. Thank you, Moon. Okay, last question will be from Angelica. I'm going to go ahead and unmute your, there you go.
How is it to work with, is it hard to work with the 49ers?
Thanks, Angelica, for the question. You know, again, I think it's all about, like, if you love your job, and if you love your job, you know, things become a lot easier. There are certainly challenges every day. You know, for example, thinking about hosting a game day, and you know, now we're in kind of a shelter-in-place environment. But if we think about last season, we host 70,000 fans on a game day, and think about inviting 70,000 people to your home, and everyone's all coming at once. And you know, there's always so many challenges and so many problems that happen on a game day, and things that break. And you know, those days are always a little chaotic to try and make sure that our fans have a great experience. So there definitely are some challenging days, but I enjoy the challenge. And you know, I think my boss, who's Al Guido, who's the president of the 49ers, talks about enjoying that journey a lot. And you know, there's actually a famous Nike line. It's how Nike really started with their first ad campaign, and it's there is no finish line. And you know, what's that really is about is, like, you know, life is just about a continuous journey, and it's about a continuous journey about improving yourself. And so you know, there certainly are challenges, but you know, you're on this journey, and enjoy that journey and those challenges, and embrace it, and you know, maybe it will then become a little easier.
Excellent. Thank you, Moon. And thank you, all of our students and our educators, for participating in today's webinar. We have recorded the session, so we will be able to share that with the teachers, and they may use that for any of the students that are not in the room today. Because of your participation, you each have also earned a JA student certificate. We will email those to you soon. Our next speaker series will be today at noon with Jobina Fortson from ABC Channel 7 News. So we encourage you to sign up. She's also as amazing as Moon is, and we look forward to seeing you all there. So with that, we will go ahead and end our speaker series.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank
you.
Very
See y'all later, I guess.
very inspiring. Thank you.